Hey guys, so I just wanted to record a short sort of overview of the OpenAI DevDays with some of my thoughts around new features they presented and some of the other stuff. For you, it can serve as just a quick overview, although it might be easier to just watch the review of the conference itself. But anyway, I'll share a small presentation. And basically, that's the first slide. It's funny because I asked DALL-E 3 to generate me a slide to talk about OpenAI DevDays and gave it, of course, like an overview of the stuff. So that's what we got. Not the most impressive. It still works kind of poorly with the text. If you tell it what you want in the picture. But overall, style-wise, it looks fine. Anyway, so I'll talk today about the following stuff. So first of all, GPT-4 Turbo, of course, the release of the new model and how this is going to be used through the API. Most of the stuff I'm going to be talking about is obviously related to API. Then updates to 3.5, new modalities in the API, function calling, assistant API, which is basically agents API. Then we'll talk about GPTs and some other stuff that they introduced as well, which is important, but not as crucial as the rest of it. All right, so let's start with new GPT-4 Turbo model. So what I think is the most important about this model is these four items. First of all, there's data cut. Instead of September 21, we now have April 23. So the data is going to be more accurate, more up to date, and with less need to, go to the internet and search. The most important is that they increased the window to 128,000 tokens, which is massive. It's something they say 300 pages of text. It's kind of amazing what can be done with that now. And it's still to be discovered whether model is processing this stuff adequately, meaning that it takes into account everything, or it just looks in the beginning and the end and ignores the rest of it to an extent. But I guess we'll see. And of course, the model became cheaper, which I think is a quite important one, especially for GPT-4, because it's very expensive to use and kind of slow to use as well. It used to be. I hope Turbo is going to be faster. Right. So what are my takeaways from this new GPT-4 Turbo model release? I think OpenAI pushes for more up-to-date models, and eventually, maybe next year, we're going to see a real-time model, a completely real-time model, when they're going to be maybe updating, up to a previous day. I know it's technologically difficult to do right now, but well, hopefully they'll get there. At least they want to. For most of the use cases, this wide of a window now, basically, there's no need to use memory in many cases. It's enough to use just the plain window itself. You can put everything in it. There is less need to use summarization as well, which is kind of nice and makes it way more coherent, because summarization is not always working well as we would like to. Yeah, and the models are becoming cheaper, as everyone predicted, and I'm expecting that soon they're going to be commoditized, and the use is going to be costing much less than it is today. Hopefully, we will see that GPT-4 will drop to the level of GPT 3.5 Turbo now, but we'll see. Okay, so for 3.5 Turbo updates, they extended the window a little bit, which is good. They introduced this new JSON mode, which will, I think, extend to other formats as well in the future, and parallel function calling. Okay, so the first one is clear, right? So they just extended the window. Good, we're working with that now. Makes it a little easier. JSON mode, that was quite a widespread developer request, I know, because I was struggling with that myself, and basically requesting it to return a structured JSON. Now they do return it. However, you still need to define what you want to be returned in the prompt itself, which means that, how do I put it? There's no separate field for say JSON schema where you can say, okay, that's the output I need, that's the format of the output I need. You just need to put the format in the prompt as you did previously. So really what it solves right now is only the sort of retry and pre-processing of the responses to make sure it's in the JSON. Doesn't really bring that much value from my perspective. On the other hand, parallel function calling, and by the way, I think JSON mode and parallel function calling is available for GPT-4 Turbo as well. But parallel function calling is kind of useful in case GPT decides it needs to call several functions. Now they can go in parallel. Previously, it was just one after another. So anyway, what does it all mean? Obviously, they're optimizing for the structured output. There's no JSON schema yet. Hopefully, in the future, there will be. Yeah, and parallel function calling, I think, will impact the performance of some of the use cases for some of the companies, which at the end of the day will impact usability and adoption of the AI tools and products. So definitely good stuff, useful, unlike JSON from my perspective. All right, so I guess what everybody has been expecting for is the extension of the modalities offering in the API, and we got it. So now we have Vision API, which means we can send it pictures and deal with them, ask what's on the picture, try to analyze something from the picture. The pricing to that is not that bad, actually, and it allows, I think it makes a lot of use cases feasible. Of course, there's DALL-E 3 API. So now we're enabling use cases basically that have both understanding of the image as well as generation of the image. And a lot of use cases come to mind that can loop those into a feedback loop and gradually improve. We will see how well this will work, but the fact that they enabled it, I mean, this is mind-blowing, to be honest, this part. Yeah, text-to-speech API, I mean, that's table stakes, I think, at this point. I was using something different. I was using assembly AI for text-to-speech, which worked great. I will test how the OpenAI works. But you see the tendency here is that, they're trying to get everyone into their ecosystem and log them in within it. So that obviously opens a lot of, this new announcements open a lot of new use cases. Funny enough, they're killing a lot of old use cases, but they're opening up a lot of new use cases. So a lot of entrepreneurs will basically, close the browser with the previous project and create a new one right away. Yeah, and as I said, it's getting harder to use other vendors if you're leveraging OpenAI API right now heavily. So the thing is, there is no vendor out there at this point, even in open source, that offers that wide functionality. So there are, obviously the text-to-speech somewhere, there's image generation somewhere, there's no vision anywhere as far as I understand. But anyway, the point is, once they enable all of that, all of the use cases that use at least two of them are going to be locked to them as a vendor. So they're basically taking over the market for AI, and I really want to see how the rest of the market is going to react, whether guys like Anthropic or someone else are gonna respond to that, or Google gonna respond to that in some meaningful way. So yeah, developers might become dependent, developers, entrepreneurs, on the OpenAI ecosystem from the purely development standpoint, just when they build their own products. That's not all though. Right, so what do we got? Assistance API. Oh my God, this is huge. This to me was the most interesting update of everything they produced, even, including Vision API and GPT-4 Turbo and the rest of it. This one is could be a game changer, I think. So basically what they're doing is this whole idea of agency, of creating artificial intelligence agents that can autonomously make decisions and execute particular functions and react to events and get some information and analyze it and do something on their own. This whole cycle now becomes possible on the platform of OpenAI itself. So if before that it was possible through, building it manually with LangChain or building it with your own framework or something else, now this whole thing is fairly easily accessible through the OpenAI, and not using them for prototyping and MVPing of this kind of agents would be stupid. And that's basically what all they need in order to lock you in for their service for a long time. So again, they're attempting to take over this whole ecosystem of AI agents. So let me talk about a couple of these things in a little more detail. So the persistent API, what does it mean? It means that it keeps running, the agent keeps running and remembering everything that was happening basically forever. They implement that with this infinitely long threads. That also means, my dog is trying to get out of the balcony. 1 second. All right, the dog problem is solved. Anyway, so what it means is that potentially now you can create agents that are sitting there, remembering all the stuff that happened in the past and reacting to events in their virtual world, getting notifications and deciding whether they need to act on that or they don't. That's kind of amazing, and that opens up a whole universe of new use cases as well. Of course, those agents that was expected would have access to code interpreter for the data analysis, to information retrieval through this standard pattern of RAG, and to function calling. So it's like everything you would think be necessary is going to be available there. Right. But again, to me, this is about vendor locking. If people jump on this opportunity to build these agents easily and quickly with all of this power, these powerful models like GPT-4 Turbo, they're going to become locked on the OpenAI as a vendor, and it's going to be close to impossible to jump off of them. It's almost like, or maybe even worse than, when you're building something and deploying that on Amazon and start using all the proprietary services of AWS, and then there's no chance you can change the vendor. You're basically hooked. Right, I talked about threads a little bit. So it's a kind of event-driven agency architecture, what it looks to me, and opens up a lot of use cases. All right, now let's talk about GPTs. This is actually, I guess we finished with the API, and now we're talking about the consumer-based kind of product line for OpenAI. So this GPTs is something that they're introducing on the front end of the ChatGPT. It's basically custom ChatGPT specific. Well, I would also call it agents, to be honest, because they also have actions and functions, and they can talk to external services and that kind of stuff. So probably the best way to look at them, the best analogy is to look at them as apps on the mobile phone. And basically they're opening this GPT store now, or not now, maybe a little later, but that's what they announced, which means that it's basically an app store moment for everyone over here. So imagine, a developer can sit down and develop a custom agent with a standardized interface, which is ChatGPT. This agent would respond to you based on a particular knowledge system and instructions. It will have access to particular data that you wanted to have access to through the functions and through the access to external services. And basically it becomes an app. And in this case, this is an app, and the prompt engineering becomes a programming language in a way, and the front-end interface becomes ChatGPT. So what it means from my perspective, obviously this is an app store moment for AI. This is 2008 all over again, now for artificial intelligence. And the ChatGPT becomes a new platform, like a browser or a mobile phone before it. And really, it really is, meaning that chances are that in a few years, people are going to be spending a very good portion of time just within ChatGPT, not even going to other browsing areas. Why not? I mean, as long as they later enable video over there or something along those lines that is more entertainment, but maybe not. Maybe even without that, for say any work-related purposes, people are going to be spending time mostly in ChatGPT. So from that standpoint, it becomes an iPhone, and those GPTs become apps on this app store for the iPhone. And yeah, as it happened back in the day, basically it means that they're taking over the distribution of and for the agent-like startups. So if you want to build something like an agent that has the only thing that it really needs in terms of front end is the chat-like window, you will not have a need to build it on your own. You will just go to ChatGPT, to GPT Store, build this agent. The problem is, though, they're taking control of the distribution, marketing, and the rest of it. And so it's going to be yet another game in terms of customer acquisition, as it is right now with mobile apps. Right. And of course, they will be taking cuts from those apps. There's no question about it. All right, let's move on. So in terms of some other interesting stuff that has been announced, they're providing experimental access to GPT-4 fine-tuning. I'm honestly waiting for GPT-4 fine-tuning. They said it's very difficult in terms of cost and effort to fine-tune those GPT-4 models. So they said, like, hey, you want some custom models, or you want like basic fine-tuning. For custom models, they said that yes, it's also going to be possible for probably enterprise customers, but very expensive. So yeah, there's still a big question to resolve with the fine-tuning and customizing of this really large base models. They increased, I mean, that was also unavoidable. They increased the tokens per minute rate limits, meaning that through the API, you can now request more tokens per minute. Simple as that, doubled it. They implemented an interesting concept of copyright shield. So basically, as far as I understand it, they're taking on themselves the responsibility for copyright claims for the content that GPT-4 produced. To be honest, I have no idea how they're going to manage to make it real. I mean, maybe there's a team of 100 lawyers that prepared all sorts of defenses against that. I don't know, but I think this is actually removing one of the big roadblocks for some of the use cases to use GPT-4. Again, I don't think anybody else has it right now. And so for those use cases, people are going to be inclined, or actually they will have to use OpenAI products for their products, whatever. And not the last one, and it's actually very interesting. So when developing LLM applications, every developer runs into this same problem, which is not a typical problem for an engineer, where it becomes very hard to reproduce a problem. So LLM can generate different outputs, especially with higher temperatures, of course, different outputs for the same input data, which makes it more and more difficult to get the error reproduced. So OpenAI introduced this reproducible outputs mode that allows to get, as they say, like consistent results more often. Not that it's going to be guaranteeing for 100% that it's going to be consistent results, but this stuff is definitely going to make debugging much easier for the LLM applications. So that's it. That's all I wanted to talk through today. I hope it was useful. Cheers.